Hello and welcome to Friday's ESPN FC Live. Mark Donaldson, Shaka Hislop, Mark Ogden with you. We're going to look ahead, a deep dive into the big one in the Premier League this weekend, Manchester City against Liverpool, and plenty other things still to come. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Shanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, Shaka Hislop. How was yesterday for you?
It was, what's the best word to use it? It was food-filled. Let's
Okay.
just go with that.
Okay. And Oggy, obviously being in the UK, it's just another week for you preparing for what should be a decent game. I take it you'll be in attendance at one of the games in the Premier League. Will it be Manchester City against Liverpool, perhaps, on Saturday?
Yeah, that's me. International break seems to drag on a little bit, doesn't it, these days? So it's a good game to come back to, definitely. It's the big game, biggest game of the Premier League season, to be honest.
Before we hear from Pep and Jurgen Klopp, just want to clarify something. And I know there's been a lot of talk about Liverpool and City facing 12:30 games, especially Liverpool. But this wasn't a Premier League decision as such. It was meant to be the late game on Saturday, Oggy, wasn't it? And Brentford-Arsenal was meant to be the early game, but at the insistence of the local authorities in Manchester, that is why this is the 12:30 in the UK, Man City-Liverpool.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, a 12:30 kickoff means that fans have less time to drink, less time to become unruly. But I think the issue is that over the last few seasons, there have been quite a few situations between City and Liverpool off the pitch. You know, buses getting attacked on the way to Anfield, as we know. You know, things being thrown during games. So it's just a case of when it's daylight and the pubs haven't been open too long, it's a lot easier for the police to deal with it. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp's been quite quiet about this when he hasn't complained too much about the kickoff time, but maybe he knows that Bayern Munich are playing on Friday night this week, so it's only 3 days after Germany played. So maybe he's realised that he's got an extra few hours on Bayern Munich. So well, Premier League teams must be used to it now by now. They play at all times, all hours of the week, so they'll be fine. It's not a big deal. They'll be okay to get on with it at 12:30.
Okay, before we get into this game and preview it, and Oggy can tell us who's fit, who's not fit, who's available, let's hear from the two main men in charge of the respective sides, Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp.
It's a good question. I would answer when I had the sentence. When I had the sentence, you have the questions like you have been punished. You are questioning me like we have been punished. And in that moment, we are innocent. And the guilt is proven. So I know the people want it. I know it. I feel it. But wait and see it, and the sentence will be done, and after we come here and explain you. But absolutely, we're not considering my future. It depends being here or being in League One. Absolutely not. There's more chance to stay if I'm in League One that we win the Champions League. When you are many, many years in this business and you face many times him and his teams, not even here in Dortmund, always has been a big rival and a good game for the both sides, both teams, and positive approach to the games, no speculate few, and I think always have been attractive games. But I'm pretty sure. So he made me. I said many times he made me better manager.
Saturday is a big one, no doubt about that. It's the strongest team in the world for the last years, and so that's a massive task for each football team in the world, for us as well, but we will give it a try anyway. This is a tough game, but yeah, whatever happens last year, what happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, is just a memory. It's nothing else, so we have to be ready for tomorrow, and that's what we try to be, and if we are that's what I said millions of times. If we can be really uncomfortable for them, then we have a chance. If they feel comfortable in their game, there's no team who can beat them.
Okay, Shaka. Stevie Nicol hates pre-match press conferences. Oh, they're such a good team. Oh, he's the best manager. Oh, if they play well, they'll be really good. Yes, there was a bit of that, but let's go right to the start of that answer from Pep Guardiola, because there's been a lot of talk after the 10-point deduction to Everton that Manchester City, of course, there's an investigation going on right now, and perhaps Chelsea might one day be caught up in this and what the sanctions might be. So Pep was asked, does that mean you would be off ski? And he said, look, if we play in League One, I would still be here. So you could tell, couldn't you, Shaq, at the start of that first answer, he was a little bit prickly, understandably so. And then when it's all about Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool, he was more in his comfort zone.
Yeah, listen, I understand Pep Guardiola being prickly, to use your term, Mark, because to his point, and I'm speaking purely from a Manchester City perspective here, what happened with Everton has absolutely nothing to do with Manchester City. They have their charges; they're very separate from Everton. And to Pep Guardiola's point, they are innocent until proven guilty. That being said, a couple of years ago, when this first started brewing, and Pep Guardiola assured us on this side of that of that discussion, shall we call it, that he confronted his owners about whether he would told the truth or not. He was assured that he would told that they were telling him the truth, and he had nothing to worry about. And to his point, that he made to them that if they were lying to him, he would walk away. So now, given that, he's found himself in a little bit of a position, given the continued brewing of this storm around Manchester City. And listen, I totally understand. Looking at it from an Everton perspective, it just feels or seems a whole lot easier to pick on a club like Everton, who have been mid-table or for the most part, than it is against Manchester City, who have won, 5 of the last 6 Premier League titles, who are defending European champions. If they're found guilty, what is the league's response going to be? So it just feels, and again, now I'm speaking from an Everton perspective, it just feels a little bit convenient to be picking on the blue side of Liverpool.
Okay, I don't want to linger on this because it's Manchester City Liverpool. It's one of the biggest games in the Premier League, Augie. Why do you think this is a fixture that doesn't really it doesn't favour at all the visitors? Because Liverpool haven't won at the Etihad in the Premier League. I know they won in the Champions League, but they've not won in the Premier League for 8 years, since November 2015. And Liverpool at home against City, City have only won once since Anelka's brace back in 2003. In the Premier League 20 years ago. So why is it a fixture that really does favour the home side?
I think that City win as well was that during the COVID season when there were no fans at Anfield. So I think, listen, it's hard. They're two massive teams, and I guess there's two big sense of pride as well. I think if your biggest rivals are coming to town, that you're absolutely determined not to lose. And I think there's Liverpool hosting Man City know that they have got the backing of the crowd, and I think at City as well. City's quite a hostile ground, and people mock the Etihad, saying, "Oh, it's not very noisy. There's a lot of fans that turn up," but it's actually quite a noisy and hostile ground. They get on the referees as well, and I think teams play to their strengths at home, and they use that advantage as well. I just think it's one of those quirks, really, because you've got two teams that are both well equipped to go anywhere in the world and win away from home. But when it comes to these two, I just think it's probably a pride and ego thing whereby they just will not countenance losing to their biggest rival. I think that's what it is.
What's the update on the team news for both sides? Because City seem to have a few doubts.
Yeah, well, the big doubt is Erling Haaland, isn't he? He's the one that everyone's asking questions about. But he trained on Thursday. He's been troubled by an ankle injury, which he aggravated playing for Norway last week, and it's one that he's already had this season. When City played Bournemouth, he picked up the injury. But he trained on Thursday, and I think Pep's trying to steer people away a little bit, inject a bit of confusion, saying that he had a few niggles on Thursday. Well, Haaland will play. There's no doubt about it. He's back on the training pitch. He'll play. Now, the rest of it, I think, is Nathan Ake fit? He missed the game at Chelsea before the break. City need to resolve that situation at left back. They haven't really got an out-and-out left back. So Ake's a doubt, and obviously Ake is a big player for them because Josko Gvardiol hasn't really settled in at left back this season since he arrived from Leipzig. So big question marks for City there. But in terms of Liverpool, it's, as long as Mo Salah's fit, I think they've got a chance. And I think Liverpool go into it a bit healthier than Liverpool. But, if Haaland's fit, that's all that really matters for City, because I think he's the one player that they've got that they really can't replace. I think we've seen De Bruyne missing since the start of the season. Gundogan went in the summer. They just find a way to play without them. Rodri's back now, so I don't think anyone else missing really makes a difference for City apart from Haaland.
Top two, Shaka, just a point separating the two. How would you compare City and Liverpool right now to when they were going head-to-head in that unbelievable season when they eventually City pipping Liverpool to the title?
Yeah, listen, even though City are sitting top of the table and still in November, I don't think City have played anywhere near as good as we know they can. And oftentimes, let's just use last season as an example. You cannot afford to let City get any kind of a head start on you. As a matter of fact, you need to put some daylight between yourself and City, because come the important part of the season, they seem to manage that run in better than most in the league. So while City sit top, while City for me are still favourites to win the league, I don't think they've been anywhere near as good as we know they can be. Liverpool, on the other hand, have been a little bit inconsistent, but also a little bit unlucky. I think key decisions in big games have gone against them. I'm thinking the Spurs game, that first comes to mind, and how that would have changed, how that maybe would have changed the table or the complexion of this game had they been had a little bit more luck with VAR or some of those errors. I still don't think that this Liverpool team are as strong as the one that won the league a couple of seasons ago and did such a good job of chasing City down in the season previous and following. Defensively, and they have defensive issues. I don't think they're anywhere near as good. Tsimikas, he's as inconsistent as they come, and then question marks around the front three that isn't anywhere near as consistent as the one again that we saw a couple of seasons back. We know how good they can be, but at times just not consistent enough, in my opinion.
Okay, excuse me. I love when you take a deeper dive into this and you look at the individual matchups. Excuse me. Is there one in particular that you would say might hold the key to this game? Because Shaka's mentioned Tsimikas, but if we look at the other side, if we look at Trent Alexander-Arnold potentially up against maybe Jeremy Doku, who's been playing really well. If we look against Mohamed Salah up against, if it's Guardiola, if it's Ake, you've got Darwin Núñez against the centre-backs of Manchester City, potentially Bernardo Silva doing what he does in the big games. What would you say would be the one area of this game, the one individual battle that not could decide the game, but could play a big part?
I think looking at Van Dijk against Haaland, I think Van Dijk at times this season has been back to his best, but other times he's not been back to his best. I think he's maybe, I won't say he's lost a yard of pace. He's probably lost a little bit of mobility in terms of being able to move around the pitch as quick. I still like to contradict himself, but he's quick over distance. But I think when it comes to that initial turning point, I think he's not as quick as he was moving around. I think Haaland can exploit that, but equally, Haaland, when defenders get at Haaland physically and basically breathe down his neck, he doesn't enjoy that either. So I think that the winner in this battle, Haaland versus Van Dijk, will kind of define who wins the game, because if Van Dijk can keep him quiet, then City's biggest threat won't have scored a goal. So that for me is the obvious one, because Haaland does score the majority of City's goals. He's got 13 goals in the league already this season. So I think it's the sort of game that Van Dijk will relish as well. I think he knows he's had a bit of criticism in recent months. And I think maybe at the time that they won the league, I think there was a bit of overblown praise for Van Dijk, suggesting he was the best defender we've ever seen in the Premier League. I think that was kind of, diminishing the quality of people that go back. Tony Adams, Nemanja Vidic, Jaap Stam, all these great players, John Terry. But he is a great defender, and I think he'll want to prove himself and remind people of that against Haaland on Saturday.
Shaq, a particular area of the park that you think could play a key part in how this game goes?
I'm with Oggy in that I just feel so much of City's fortunes go as Erling Haaland does. So that those matchups and how you cope with Erling Haaland should he be fit is key. And the only other side to that is I mentioned Tsimikas before. I just feel that defensively Liverpool I just haven't dealt with Robertson being out and Tsimikas being in. He makes far too many mistakes for me as left back, and is prone to giving the opposition at least one big opportunity a game. You can't afford to do that against Manchester City. That being said, that and as ever when we talk about Liverpool, the front three, whoever that front three may be, and how they engage City defensively is so key at a time where I think certainly the midfields may very well cancel each other out. And I don't think we've been able to see that for some time. But Liverpool's midfield this season, I think, is looking as strong as ever.
In a minute, we're going to build a hybrid player between Salah and Erling Haaland, who's got the best attributes of the five I'm going to give you. But before that, Oggy, if Liverpool win this one and win at the Etihad in the Premier League for the first time in 8 years, would you say they eclipse Arsenal as City's main and number one challengers? Or do you think, regardless of the result, they are City's number one challengers?
Yeah, I think Liverpool all the way. I just think that what Liverpool have got is a goal scorer in Salah. I think they've got a guy that can score 30 league goals, and I don't think Arsenal have got that. I think Arsenal have got a problem putting the ball in the back of the net. I mean, they can score goals, but they haven't got all teams that win titles have a striker that can score 20 goals. The only kind of team that has disproved that recently is Man City, but they have players that, 15, 13, 14, they always get into the high teens. But I think Arsenal haven't got that, and I think Liverpool have. They've got Salah. I mean, you could even see that, Nunes or Gakpo could add quite a few goals as well. So Szoboszlai as well, scoring goals. So I think Liverpool are the most direct threat, but I think I agree with Shaq, they're not quite what they were a couple of years ago. I think that the problem for this title race is that City will probably win it because all of their rivals right now are just not quite ready to win the league. I think Liverpool are a season away. I think Arsenal might be a season away as well. I think Tottenham, Newcastle, Man United, who knows? But I don't think they're quite equipped to win the league yet. But I think City are going to win it this year because the rivals aren't ready to challenge. And I think that's quite sad in a way because I think City are going to win 4 titles in a row. They'll be the first club ever to do that. And I think they're going to erase from the history book some of the greatest sides we've ever seen. The Liverpool team from the 80s, United team from the 90s and the 2000s that beat some real stern opposition to win the title that many times. City are going to break a record and they're not really going to be challenged in doing it. And that's a shame, really, because if you're going to break a record, set a historic height, you want to really overcome a challenge to do it. And I don't think anyone's been there to challenge City in the last 2 or 3 seasons.
It's not City's fault, though, is it?
No, absolutely. It's, they can only beat what's in front of them, but they've allowed themselves to become far too strong for the league. And obviously, we have to part that situation with 115 charges. That might be something to do with that. But their rivals, if we get out of it, it'd be an extremely competitive league with some fantastic teams, maybe 3 or 4 going for the title. But City is so far ahead that I think it's going to be inevitable they're going to win the league.
Yeah, just looking at the table just now, 28, 27, 27, 26, 25, 3 points between the top 5. Now, there's no point in saying, but what's it going to be like at the end of the season? Right now, it's decent. And this is going to be a big result on Saturday, especially if Liverpool can get the win. Now, I teased this hybrid between Salah and Erling Haaland, Shaka. I'm going to get you and Oggy to both answer each of these. I'm going to give you one attribute, 5 in total, but one at a time. You've got to tell me, would you rather have Salah or would you rather have Haaland for this attribute? The first attribute, Shaka, is speed. Who are you going for?
I'm going for Erling Haaland. I think just in terms of pure raw pace, Haaland is quicker. He's a stronger runner. He's more difficult to dispossess when he's in full flight. So I go Salah. And just while I have the opportunity, I will say as much as I know the 5 attributes that are coming, and of course, yes, I have to pick one out of the 5. There's so little between the two in each of them. So I'm giving myself a little bit of a get-out clause ahead of time.
So, Oggy, do you agree with Shaka or disagree? Speed.
I'm going to disagree with Shaka on the basis that he's right. I mean, when Haaland gets going, he is unstoppable. But Haaland's pace is basically just in a straight line through the middle. I think Salah can go left, right, through the middle. I think he can hit you pace-wise from all sides. I think that's where he has the advantage that he's so quick he can tear you apart on all sides of the pitch. So it's just different kinds of speed, really. Both very quick, but different kinds of usage of it and different ways to implement it.
The second attribute is a bit harsh on Mohamed Salah. It's heading. I mean, do we need to discuss?
I don't think so.
No. Oggy?
No, it's Haaland all day long, isn't it? It's about, he's a giant and he's also got great heading ability, so that puts him ahead of Salah in every area in that one.
Now, link-up play, Oggy.
Oh, this is, again, I think like that Haaland wins the header hands down. I think Salah wins this hands down because I don't think Haaland is particularly good as a link-up striker, to be honest. I think he gets his goals, he runs at defenders, but, compared to someone like Harry Kane, not even the same league, he doesn't link play up. He just doesn't. And that's one element of his game that he needs to improve. But when he's scoring 50-odd goals a season, maybe he doesn't need to improve it.
Shaka.
Totally agree. As far as a comparison goes, there's only one real contender there, and it is Mo Salah.
Movement, Shaka.
Movement. Now, this one is a little bit difficult. I feel that I'm going to lean Haaland, but again, I just feel Haaland's movement inside the box is really special. I've always found him to be well ahead of his years in that regard. His movement inside the box without the ball. Salah with the ball is clearly the better of the two. But again, just kind of reading this as it was presented, if I'm thinking just pure movement in terms of finding space, getting free, I'm leaning Haaland. But this is another of those that is a really tough call.
Mr. Mark Ogden.
Yeah, I mean, they're different kinds of forwards, aren't they? That's the thing, because obviously Haaland plays his back to goal quite a lot, and so his movement is different than Salah's. It has to be. But I'm going to go with Shaq in the sense that if you're in the 6-yard box or the penalty area, it's that movement, it's that speed of thought, and it's that just grabbing an inch from a defender. And I think Haaland's the best in the world at that. And I think Salah's movement is different in different parts of the pitch.
This last one, I'm intrigued as to your answers, because it might be a different answer that you give now that you gave a couple of years ago. Finishing. Now, I want to clarify that. It doesn't really need clarification, but I'm going to do it. If it's the last minute, all right, and either Haaland or Salah is one-on-one against Shaka Hislop in goal, the Shaka Hislop in his prime, who do you want, Shaq? Who do you feel more confident about trying to stop one-on-one? So the better finisher, Salah or Haaland, Shaq?
Let's go to another goalkeeper, because let's be fair, me and my prime, I'd back Oggy. I'd back Oggy to score. So that's maybe not. In all seriousness, 1-on-1, last minute, I think Erling Haaland is the better finisher. But again, I'll offer myself that caveat for the third time, that there's so little between these two, but I'm leaning Erling Haaland.
Oggy?
I've seen Haaland miss a couple of big ones, late in games.
Recently he has.
Yeah, but I don't see Salah doing that. I don't see Salah when he's got a chance. He just doesn't miss. And I think it's hard to call, but I'd go with Mo Salah, because I just think that, and he also does it in the biggest games. And I think Haaland, again, when you look at his record in the very big games, he does score, but not at the same rate that Salah does. Salah always scores in the big games. So for me, Mo Salah.
The reason I kind of introed that the way it was about a couple of years ago, I think Salah now is a better finisher than he was a couple of years ago. And okay, I'm basing it on potentially having captained Mohamed Salah in Fantasy Premier League, Shaka, and watching every game with a fine eye on it and seeing the chances. I mean, he never hid. He was always there. I just think now he's a better finisher than he was. And to be fair, you've mentioned about Haaland this season. He's missed one or two, whereas last season everything seemed to go in. Maybe in a couple of years from now, he's even better than he was last season, because we forget he's just a baby. And he doesn't look like one.
He is. Listen, I think Haaland is still growing into his game, and that's kind of ridiculous to say about a player who scored, 50 goals last season. But similarly, to your point, Mo Salah is such an accomplished finisher and different. I think Mo Salah is more likely to kind of dink it over you or find a cute finish, whereas Haaland could just beat you with pace on the finish. The two players are so different in their styles in every single regard. Yeah, we are talking about two of the best players in all those categories in so many ways, yet being so different.
Before we
just on that, can I on that point about Salah? You make a good point, and I think it's down to one thing: Sadio Mane leaving to Bayern Munich 18 months ago. Because
I agree.
When Mane, they had a great partnership, those two, but we know there were times when they kind of fell out when one didn't pass to the other one. I think at times Salah was through and he was thinking, do I pass to Mane? Do I look for Mane? Or do I go myself? And that's been taken out of the equation now, because he doesn't have to pass to anybody, because he's the main man, and there's no doubt about it. So he just knows chance scores. That's basically it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, before we let you go, let's get a prediction. Shaka, Manchester City, Liverpool, the early game on Saturday.
I'm going to go Manchester City. I'm going to go a narrow 2-1 win for City.
Okay, Oggy?
So I've been asked this already this week, and I can't change from what I said.
Well,
Yeah,
you
you
can.
can.
Then,
And-
yeah.
I do that all the time, Moggy. I hedge my bets. I give different winners,
Yeah.
different scores. So I'm
And then you say,
right
"I
at
told
some
you so."
point.
Yeah, but the problem is somebody remind me that I said the opposite, so I can't go there. So I'm going to go 2-1 Liverpool, but maybe 3-1 because if Liverpool get in the
Wow.
lead and they can hit on the counter attack, so
Okay.
Liverpool win 2-1, but maybe a sneaky 3-1 if they get lucky.
Okay. Can't wait for it.
City will still win the league by 10 points.
Thank you to Mark. Thank you to Shaka. Big one, Manchester City against Liverpool. Full reaction at ESPN FC on our social media channels. Away they go. Now, got a big couple of games coming up this weekend on Saturday morning. I'm fortunate enough to say I'll be commentating along with the former Rayo Vallecano goalkeeper, Casey Keller, on Rayo against Barcelona in La Liga. A nice early start for this one. And for those Manchester United fans among you as well, you may remember a player. He didn't make much of an impact at Old Trafford. His name was Bebe, and he's now at Rayo, and he's flourishing. But he's got some backstory, and I want to tell you all about it in the company of Martin Einstein in this week's Bicycle Diaries.
Muy buenas. ¿Cómo estás, bebé?
¿Qué tal, Martín?
Un placer.
¿Bien?
Me pareció que para contar tu historia, este lugar era el indicado.
Vale, entonces vamos
¿Sí?
a esto.
Venga, ¿me cuidas la bici?
Vale, no hay
Muchas
problema.
gracias.
Today we get to know someone's life story that could just as easily be a movie script. Bebe, a footballer who, after many attempts at different clubs, finally found his place in the world in Madrid. That's why today, as a tribute to the city where he established himself, we learn about Bebe's history by enjoying one of Madrid's most famous dishes, el cocido.
Yo tengo una historia por detrás completamente diferente del bebé de ahora.
Bebe's story begins in a dangerous neighborhood in Lisbon. With no parents around, Bebe's grandmother raised him.
Yo tuve dos hermanos que han tenido problemas. Yo crecí con mucha gente que ahora estoy en la cárcel. Yo también podía estar ahí. Entonces mi abuela lo pensó que si yo seguía en este camino, iba al mismo camino que mis hermanos y me metió ahí en el internado.
His grandmother took him to an orphanage when he was only 9 years old, as she tried to keep him away from bad influences.
Me ha engañado, porque primero me dice que iba a una casa de vacaciones. Yo me quedé 10 años. Pero ahí dentro había niños que no tenían madres, que sus padres les pegaban.
Construiste un vínculo fuerte con ellos.
Sí, esa era mi familia, realmente.
¿Cómo se relaciona el fútbol con el internado que estabas?
Pasamos 24 horas a jugar al fútbol y después empezaron a ver algo en mí que tiene talento.
That talent led him to a European Championship for Homeless, in which Bebe represented Portugal. There, his life changed forever.
Hago en 6 partidos 40 goles.
En 6 partidos, 40 goles.
6 partidos, 40 goles. Y cuando llego a Portugal, me contrata el Guimarães, hago como 6 partidos, creo. Y ya me voy al Manchester United.
6 partidos.
6 partidos amistosos.
Y te contrata el Manchester United.
Imagina yo, mi cabeza. Termino de firmar el contrato y cuando vamos a cenar en la tele así, en el restaurante sale Bebé contratado para el Manchester United, 10 millones de euros y tal. El restaurante a tope. Y pasa un niño y empieza a gritar, está aquí, está aquí, está aquí. Madre mía, llama a mi abuela y le llamo y le cuento. Mi abuela empezó a llorar y tal. Pues fue todo muy rápido.
In just a few months, Bebe went from playing in the yard at the orphanage with his friends to playing at Old Trafford beside the best players in the world.
¿Me puedo meter adentro de tus ojos? La entrada de ese vestuario del United.
Yo me sentaba yo aquí, Ferdinand, Rooney, Chicharrito, Poscos, Giggs, todos por ahí. Y era como, wow, porque yo solo vivía en la tele. Pero lo más impactante fue cuando me tengo que ver a Ferguson. Entro en su sala, me agarra así la cabeza, me da un abrazo así y un beso. Y dice, como a partir de hoy es mi niño, te voy a cuidar y tal. Y yo como le miraba como, será verdad esto.
¿Cuáles son los grandes desafíos, lo que te pasa?
Es muy difícil. Yo hacía lo que lo que me daba la gana. Tienes un día libre, pillas un avión y vas para Portugal. Mi cabeza estaba en creerte vacaciones, lo que sea ahora. Si sé en este tiempo, estaba ahí mucho más años.
¿Cómo que, por ejemplo?
Cuidarte más como tú, profesional, vivir más el fútbol, no hacer tontas locuras.
Te faltó tal vez un consejo. Alguien que te diga, oye.
Sí, claramente un padre.
Bebe played just 7 games before leaving United on loan. He never got another chance there. Thus began a pilgrimage that took him through 8 teams in 12 years, until Rayo Vallecano entered his life.
En el Rayo encontré lo que yo tenía en el orfanato donde viví, gente muy humilde, entonces yo creo que me siento en casa.
That connection paid off. After 5 years, Bebe has found stability. Today, he is Rayo Vallecano's captain. Some might say he missed a great opportunity, but for Bebe, his story is a successful one.
Tiene final feliz.
Muy feliz. Demasiado.
Muito obrigado.
Obrigado.
This is the Bicycle Diaries. See you for the next journey.
So every week on our ESPN Plus coverage of La Liga, we have a Bicycle Diaries. That's going to be one of my favourite ones yet with Bebe. And the 33-year-old certain to play a big part against Barcelona. It's on ESPN Plus on Saturday. Our coverage begins with ESPN FC at 7:30 Eastern, much earlier than that on the West Coast. And kickoff is at 8. One little postscript to this game. You might think Barcelona at Rayo, easy 3 points for the visitors. Barca haven't beaten Rayo in any of the last 4 meetings between the sides. Looking forward to that one. Before all that, though, Bayern Munich are in action later today. We will preview their game against Cologne prior to kickoff on ESPN Plus. Before that, however, we had a chance to sit down with Harry Kane, the striker who's had an unbelievable start to his career at Bayern in Bavaria, and we asked him to build his ultimate striker. Here's what he said.
Harry Kane, this is build the ultimate striker. Movement.
Cavani.
Speed.
Speed. Ronaldo.
Heading.
I'm going to go with someone like Peter Crouch.
Finishing.
Got to put myself in one of these, so I'll go finishing.
Dribbling.
I'd say Mbappe.
By the way, you can use yourself more than once.
Okay.
Link up play.
Link up play. You know what? I'm not going to go me. I'm going to go Wayne Rooney.
Work rate.
Who's just always getting around. He's kind of played higher up. Drew Bellingham.
Strength.
I'm just thinking of someone who's just like holding up, pinning players. Didier Drogba.
Boom. Perfect.
What a shout that was, by the way. Yeah, I was just trying to picture someone just pinning the ball, and Drogba was the man.
And off he goes to score even more goals. Big one for Bayern today at Cologne. It's live on ESPN Plus at 2:30 Eastern. Remember, City against Liverpool's the early one on Saturday. Loads of other brilliant games from La Liga, from the Bundesliga, and also from the Premier League. We will react to them all on our social media channels at ESPN FC over the weekend. My thanks to Mark Ogden, to Shaka Hislop as well. I'm Mark John Donaldson. Goodness me, put my teeth back in. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll do this all again tomorrow. Bye for now.